Hi, welcome to episode 296 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffyk on Ravelry, Fluffykira on Instagram and Twitter. I have a blog where this episode and every episode show notes will be called The Corner of Knit and Tea. I also have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea where I sell my handspun yarns and patterns. Hi, how are you? It is Monday, September 21st. And I have to admit that this week has been a little bit of a down weekend. I think most of you will probably follow along, even if you're not in the United States. On Friday, we lost Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which was sort of a blow to some of us. She was a judge of renown and did a lot to advance women's rights throughout her career. And it just feels like another precarious Jenga block in our democracy and in the way things are going in the United States right now. And I would be lying if I said it didn't affect me and didn't put kind of a pall over the weekend. I have thrown myself into knitting, immersed myself in projects. That's not to say I'm not doing other things. I joined Postcards for Voters. I actually joined early last week, so even before that happened, which is I am writing postcards to send to voters in various states to encourage them to vote. So I am doing that. You can find out more about that at postcardsforvoters.com. If you are interested in participating. I've also made some donations to candidates around the country in battleground states, and I am preparing to go vote because that is the only thing I can do in terms of exercising my voice in how things are going. I would encourage you to do the same. So, this week I'm a little bit light on knitting content, despite the fact that I have talked about, that I've said I've thrown myself headlong into my knitting. Some things have come up and I will discuss them with you in the course of the podcast. I also brought kind of a ton for show and tell today because I knew that what I could share with you in terms of my projects on the needles is pretty light right now. So I brought some yarns that I have received and we'll talk a little bit about future plans for those. Other than that, I don't have a ton to say. I'm sorry if this week is a little bit more down. This week I'm just finding consolation in my craft. So today's tea, you know that I love spicy teas, especially for the fall. This is called French Spice. It is from Tea Time Scottsdale, which is, I can say my favorite tea shop in Scottsdale. It's the only Scottsdale tea shop I've been to, but if you've been watching for a long time, you know my friend Liz, who was the travel correspondent over on Come Knit With Us. She lives in Tempe, and well, I don't know if she actually lives in Tempe, but when I went to visit, let me think about this. It actually was about a year and a half ago. I was in town for the AFCI craft show, Creativation, and she took me to the tea shop and I purchased French Spice, which is black tea, pu'er, oolong, chai spices, vanilla, and spearmint. Tea Time Scottsdale is online and you can order from them that way if you would like. And I am drinking it in my Hello Kitty Trick or Treat mug. You'll probably be seeing this one quite a bit because I only use it around the holidays. And you know, I'll take all the holiday spirit and fun I can get. These days, the name of the game is doing things that are comforting and make me feel better. And as long as they do not make anyone else feel worse, I am indulging myself in that. So, you know, do no harm, but drinking my tea in my favorite tea mug doesn't seem to be a problem, other than you who might get bored of seeing it. That's delicious. So let's talk about the knits. I did have one finish this week, and that is that I did manage to finish Roxy's scarf. This is based on the Harry Potter as Prisoner of Azkaban scarf for the, I believe, 4th years. And Miss Roxy, who is my niece, is reading the Harry Potter books. She is already, I think, on book 4. And she's been reading them with my sister and then also reading them herself. She'll be 7 this fall. I think she's going to run out of age-appropriate books before she hits the right age to read them. So I don't know at what point my sister might stop her in the series, because they do get more advanced in their upsetting things that happen in the later books. But she idolizes Harry Potter, and actually she came to our last family chat dressed as Professor Trelawney, which I thought was really sweet. So I just knit her a Harry Potter scarf. What I did is I used Barocco ultrafine wool, and it is 100% superwash wool. It can be washed and dried in the washing machine in dryer. I have not done that yet, but I will do that before I send that to them, because I usually, if anything's going to happen, I like it to happen to me. But it should not, because the care tag says that is fine. It just says machine wash gentle and tumble dry low. So I will plan to do that. I knit it approximately 5 feet long, which is way taller than Roxy's, but I wanted it to be a big scarf. The original pattern for the scarf called for it to be knit in worsted weight and to be a really, really heavy scarf, and I didn't want it to be quite so heavy for her, so I did knit it in the fingering weight, and then just adapted my stripes and such as necessary, and then I had cut fringe before I started. This took approximately 2.5 balls. It was like a ball and a half, or almost 2 balls of the red, and then maybe like half a ball of the yellow. The colors are sour cherry and butternut, and I have enough left over to work on a hat and mittens for her, and so that will be coming up in the next few weeks. I haven't specifically cast on for them or set a cast on. I have a few things that I need to finish first, but that will also be in the projects before Christmas. So that is done and ready to go, and that was the biggest part of the project. So I think I'm going to do Hermione's hat to go with it, and then I'm debating on mittens. Since I still have some of the yellow, I was thinking about maybe doing colorwork mittens for her, but there don't seem to be a ton of children's mittens that are color work, so I have to figure out how I want to do this. I might find a worsted weight pattern and then just knit it in fingering weight, and that might work, but I need to think about that a little bit. So the other accomplishment that I made this week is I finished the first of the socks for my mom. These are the Wishing You Were Here socks, which is a free pattern by the Kitchen Sink shop, and it's got just this nice little bit of lace pattern down one side. It will be mirror imaged on the other sock. I knit these socks for a 5.5 inch foot. They just barely fit on my small sock blockers. My mom has tiny feet. The yarn that I used was Moon Rover Wild. I think it was in the colorway Gloom, and it's a little hard to see, but in there among the gray, you've got lots of little bits of color. It's more evident in person, but they're just nice socks. They're squishy. I hope they'll be good house socks for her, or my mom, in better times, my mom likes to visit her grandchildren in Chicago, and in the winter it is very chilly there, so I hope that she will use them, you know, either as house socks around the house in the winter, or she'll use them as kind of boot socks when she goes to see my sister. This is my standard. Well, okay, I did use a pattern. It's got 1x1 ribbing on top. It's got a heel flap and gusset. That was, I believe, part of the pattern. If I can't remember. I kind of worked on autopilot. I really just stole the lace patterning, and I had to adapt the stitch count too, because this tends to be almost a sport weight sock yarn. It's definitely a heavy fingering, and so I get different gauge with it. I can barely get this sock on my foot, so I hope that it will be nice and snuggly for my mom. And now I just need to finish the second one. It is my hope that I'll finish these by the end of the month. So I haven't cast on. I cast this off late last night, so that will be my project for this week, is making the mate. So now is normally the time where I would show you the sample that I'm knitting for Zen Yarn Garden. You might remember I was doing the Hope and Feather Shawl, which is by Mary Annarella, who is Lyrical Knits. Last week I discovered that I was going to run out of yarn, and when I went and checked my gauge, it sort of looked like I was on gauge, but I decided to go ahead and rip anyway. I know, all that work. I decided to go ahead and rip because I've actually been having a lot of trouble finishing a bunch of the 2-color shawls with the yardage provided lately, and I wondered if that meant that my knitting gauge had changed, and so I decided to reknit the shawl and go down a needle size. So I am almost back to where I was, not quite. And I did not bring it to show you because it looks exactly, well, it looks less than it was last week, but I am almost back. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to have enough yarn. I don't think I've saved enough yarn in what I've done to actually make it to the end. So at this point, I will probably contact Zen Yarn Garden and see what they want me to do, or I will improvise the finish. Which I do sometimes, and then give clear instructions as to what I did. Given that I went down a needle size and I am positive I'm on gauge now, I am not 100% sure that the shawl can be knit with the yardage provided, so we'll just have to see. It is a new pattern. There are only 1 or 2 finished objects that I can see, and so there's not a lot to search from to see if people could actually finish it with 2 400 yard skeins. So that is kind of a downer, and I hope to finish that this week one way or another and bring that next week to show you, but that is kind of the end of my knitting progress for this week. So those were the 3 things I was working on. I do have another sample that I started, but unfortunately I can't share that with you, so it leaves me with very little to share with you. Crochet report. I did not bring the blanket with me, but I have 4 color stripes left plus the border. So that will definitely be done this week, and I will bring that to show you next week. That will be another huge project off the, well, technically off the hooks rather than off the needles, but I'm very, very excited to finish that this month. And yeah, so I think I'm gonna make it in most of my goals for the month. Actually, the only one that may slip is I'm running out of month to finish that sweater that I started for myself. So we'll have to see how knitting goes this week. But next weekend is the, let's see, today is the 21st. That would make Friday the 25th. Next weekend is the 26th and 27th. So it does not leave me that much time to get towards the beginning of to get finished at the end of the month. So now I'm going to show you some spinning, and then we'll go back to kind of things that I've gotten and knitting that I'm going to be working on. I just brought a few of the things that I have gotten in recently for various projects, and I thought I would share them with you because I don't have a lot of material for this week. So, last week I told you that I was finishing up the singles and then applying for a braid from Fat Cat Knits, and that was Leela, and it had purples and oranges and reds and then a little bit of greens in there, and I did finish that up this week, and it did not come out as planned. Best laid plans and all that jazz. So the way that I had decided to spin this one was I thought that I would do a 2-ply and see if I could make it be a gradient. And I didn't succeed at that. So here's how I did that. I took the braid of yarn, I unbraided it, and then I divided it in half lengthwise. So basically I fluffed the fiber out widthwise, and then I split it all the way down the braid. So I had 2 long sections of that looked exactly the same. And I went ahead and started spinning the first, and then I thought I spun the second one in the reverse. So the way I spin these days is I spin so that I can spin a center pole ball. So from a center pole ball. So I spin all in one skein, and then I ply from either end of a center pole ball, and that way I meet at the middle and I don't have any waste. So basically what I did was I divided the segments into 2, and they went, if we say they went from one end A to one end B. First I spun A to B, and then I intended to spin B to A. And that way when I folded it in half, I thought the A's would line up, the B's would line up, and then I didn't expect that it would be 100% matched as I went through. I assumed that there would be some differences in there, and that would be okay because it would just create transitions between the colors, and that I would be fine. However, I think what I did by accident is I think I spun A to B and then A to B. So then when I went to ply, I plied the A end with the B end and the A end with the B end, and then I don't think I spun them evenly, so really nothing quite lined up. So what I ended up with is at the beginning end, the purples kind of lined up because each end of the braid was purple. But then throughout the skein, I had lots of different sections. Like the pink and the red didn't line up together. They joined, like the red didn't line up with the red, it lined up with the pink section and vice versa. And then most of my orange sections lined up with green or with lavender. And so basically what I ended up with is a really tonal skein that will probably knit up very marled. It will have kind of tweedy looking. It will have long color repeats. It's just that it won't have the long single color repeats, and it won't look quite a gradient in the way that I intended it to. So this one is probably right around 300 yards of sport weight. It's Polworth. It's really soft. I need to wash it and plump it up before I get the final. And then my plan is to list it in the shop. I don't know if this is something you're interested in. What I had originally thought it would be good for is maybe a mini shawlette. Or, you know, something in the 300 to 400 yard range, and then where you just knit it straight through and it would be kind of a gradient of color that went all the way through. I don't know exactly how it will look now because it's really hard to tell. Like I said, all the colors combined. So what you would get is something that's kind of tweedy looking or marled and lots of colors together. I do think it muted the braid somewhat, which again was not my intention, but it's still got some really glorious color, pinks and reds, or sorry, purples and reds, and I do think it is kind of a fall inspired braid with the oranges and greens in there. So if that is something you're interested in, that will be up in the shop this week. I also showed you another braid with other full colors that I was working on, and this one is watercolor on Falkland from Hello Yarn, and I'm about halfway through spinning. I have done the first half and this is the second half, and this has some purples and oranges and browns and a little bit of green in there, minty green and kind of slime colors, just really kind of murky colors, and I think this will be really nice, kind of like falling leaves, and so I will be continuing to work on that this week. So let's talk about a few of the other things that I have gotten in and a few of the other knits that I will be working on in October. So I'm sort of tempting myself with the carrot because I have lots of things that I still need to finish for this month, but I'm also looking forward to some commitments and projects that I have in October. The first is that I have knit with Monosteel Uruguay yarns before, and I love them. They are yarns that are produced in Uruguay, and they are produced by women in small arts collectives. And what Monosteel Uruguay does is they go ahead and help the women sort of get their product out into the world and support them so they are making a living. And Monosteel Uruguay is certified by the World Fair Trade Organization because they use they source their fiber ethically, and they support good working conditions for the women. So one of the new things that they did for this fall is they brought out some new colors in their Monosteel Uruguay Alegria Grande. And Alegria Grande is a 100% superwash merino in worsted weight. The skeins are approximately 197 yards, 180 meters to 100 gram skein. I'm sorry, they are 75% merino superwash, 25% polyamide. So it's a merino nylon blend. And each tag tells you, it's got the tag of the name of the yarn, it's got the particulars of the yarn, and then inside it tells you both what the colorway is and where it came, the location and the artisan that it came from. So you get a little information on the inside about specifically where it came from. This is their new colorway, and I do not know how to pronounce it. It is Ushuaia. So I would say Ushaya, but I'm not sure if that's correct. It is black with bits of white and lavender and this kind of toffee color that you can see better in this skein. And they sent these 2 skeins to me for review, so I did not pay for them, fair disclosure. And I am planning to design a hat and cowl with them. And actually, I think I know what I'm doing. I sketched out some stuff a month ago when I was offered these yarns to try. And so really all I need to do is sit down and knit them. And I think it will be a hat and cowl pattern that will be together in one pattern. I'll hopefully knit that up, finish writing it up, send it to the tech editor, and that will be out in November because I promised them a review in November. So that's going to be kind of a quick turnaround and something I'm working on, and I will share more with you as I do it, but that will be sort of my next design coming up. And it is something that you'll be able to knit with any color. This color caught my eye, and I'm hoping that the idea that I have in mind will show the yarn to its full advantage. So my plan is to do kind of a hat and a cowl with each of these. So the second thing that I ordered in, and this is kind of a story, and I should have opened this before, I do apologize. Several years ago, I knit a hat for Roxy. It was a rainbow hat. It was out of rainbow yarn. It was actually out of a DK weight rainbow yarn. And she was super into My Little Ponies at the time, and so she started calling it her Rainbow Dash hat. Rainbow Dash being a pony with a rainbow mane. For those of you who don't know My Little Ponies, you can look them up online. They were huge actually when I was a kid, and then apparently they've come back, and so they were all the rage for Miss Roxy for a long time. And she passed that hat on to her brother, who absolutely loved it. And a few months ago, my sister said, and I believe I knit this hat for Roxy when she was maybe 2. So Miles is going to be 4 soon. And my sister said he loves that hat so much he still tries to put it on his head and it does not fit, and I don't know what we're going to do, and is there any possibility that you could knit him another one? And I remembered that I had used some Tosh Merino Light in the Sea Salt colorway, which was a white with a few blue flecks, and I had used that around the bottom and borrowed from the Little Scallops hat to do kind of clouds at the bottom of the hat, and the ribbing, and then the little clouds in white, and then I had used this rainbow DK yarn up at the top to knit the hat. And so I went back, and luckily I kept some project notes and noted what the yarn was and who it came from. And what I had actually had was a partial left over from a friend, but the dyer is still in business, and I went to her website, and I saw that she still dyes the colorway. And so I sent her a message asking if she would dye the colorway on her DK weight. And that was several months ago, and I did not hear back, unfortunately. However, she did have the same rainbow colorway in fingering weight. And it was not my first choice, but since I could not get the DK weight, I went ahead and ordered it in the fingering weight. So this is White Birch Fiber Arts. She does a variety of self-striping yarns that are absolutely gorgeous. This colorway is called the Full Monty, and it is a rainbow colorway. And the green is coming through, the green and yellow are coming through most strongly right now, but it is a red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple yarn. So my plan is, I don't have any of that Tosh Merino Light anymore. I don't even know if they make it anymore, and I do not really want to buy another skein of it. So this is going to be a slightly different, slightly adjacent, but roughly the same Rainbow Dash hat. So I have some gray yarn in my stash, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do gray clouds at the bottom this time, and then go ahead and knit it in the fingering weight yarn. Unfortunately, because it's fingering weight and it was designed for socks and I'm knitting it in a hat, I think the stripes are going to be real thin, so it really isn't going to look exactly like it looked before, but this is the closest I can get. And technically, the piece about it that I really like is that the actual rainbow colorway will still be the same. So if you hold them next to each other, they will look like siblings, as it were. So that is what I ordered this past month. She does have quite a few yarns in stock. Like I said, I was just, I had been hoping to get it in DK, but that didn't happen. So I will make do and go forward, and hopefully this will last him for a good long time. I might save the other half of the skein so that I can make another one in another couple of years if he decides he wants it. I had thought about maybe making him a pair of socks that were rainbow too, but I decided against that because I think I better keep it just in case we need to do this again in another couple years. So that is also coming up on the needles. That will be sooner rather than later because that is a holiday gift. So finally, one of the things that I can't even remember, I may have actually talked about this before. I can't remember. This fall, I took on a new client. I am working with a client who has a flagship Rowan store here in the US. And I actually have not knit in all my years. I guess that's not entirely true. I was going to say in all my years I have not knit with Rowan yarns. That's not entirely true. I have knit a sample in, that's actually not true. When I worked at the store in Los Angeles, the knitting store in Los Angeles, when I was living there, I knit a few samples in Rowan yarns. But it has been a long time since I've knit in Rowan yarns, and I have never knit anything for myself. And so I decided that I wanted to get myself a fall project with the new autumn-winter offerings from Rowan. And one of the pieces that I absolutely fell in love with was this. The cover pattern on this is called Carousel. It is a collection from Rowan by Martin Story, and it is a collection of half a dozen, maybe 10, I can't remember exactly, inspiring colorwork knits. Martin Story is one of Rowan's in-house designers, and he does beautiful, beautiful work, and he just absolutely loves colorwork. So this pattern is called Plume, and it is the one that I decided to knit, and I went ahead and picked up yarn to do it. I decided that I did not want to do mine in charcoal. I decided instead I wanted to do it in a different color, and I went through all of my sweaters and tried to pick something that I don't really have a lot of in stash. So actually what I picked was, this is Alpaca Soft DK, which is extra fine, super fine merino wool and baby alpaca. It is a 70% wool, 30% alpaca blend, and I believe this is the colorway Marine. And so it is kind of a, it's sort of a navy, but it's also sort of got a brighter look to it, particularly in the sunlight. I mean, it is a dark blue. And then I decided to get, I don't remember what this colorway was. I think it's Smoke, I think. And so these are going to be the colorwork chart motif. The feathers will be in this, and so I am going to knit Plume in these lovely yarns that are really, really super soft. I admit that I often find alpaca itchy, and I am not finding this itchy at all. So, and I've always kind of wanted to make kind of a capelet. So that is what I'm doing, but there are so many beautiful patterns in this book. I will just show you a few others. I don't know that I would ever knit it, but I love the Moonflower coat. That is just a coat full of color work, and it's absolutely gorgeous in autumn colors. The one that I am reasonably certain that I will knit in the future is, well, there are a couple. This is the Lattice Scarf, and it goes from light to dark to light. Dark to light to dark, and I really like the way they play with the color there. They just reverse the color work, and I think that's really, really pretty looking. And then the other one that I am almost positive that I will knit is the Cosmos cowl. And this is kind of a floral motif in a beautiful cowl, and you know me, I love color work, I love warm, cozy cowls, and I can totally imagine knitting that. And I'm trying to think if there are any others in here. Nope, the rest is patterns. It's all the patterns in the back. So I just wanted to kind of jump into Rowan and see what was going on. And I may end up actually knitting this for my Nanny Swaymo project, even though it's not a sweater, just because I don't know whether I will get to casting it on before then with the other samples and designs that I need to do. But I also have more yarn coming in. I've been kind of terrible. Friday night, I was really kind of depressed, and it turns out that LSG, a group on Ravelry, as well as some other groups that I know about, are doing Ruth Bader Ginsburg knit-alongs. There are several cowls and collars on Ravelry. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was very much known for what she called her Dissent collar, which was actually technically a crochet collar that she wore over her robes when she was delivering dissenting opinions. And she had a collection of cowls that she wore for different things, but the big one was the descent collar. And so there are a few different, there is both a knit and a crochet cowl pattern that look a little bit like her collar. There are several sweater patterns that have color work yokes that look like her descent collar. And then there are several crocheted, really light, lacy, actual collars that look exactly like what she wore. I decided that I wanted to do a colorwork sweater, and so I am going to do the Descent pullover, which is by Andrea Rangel. It has actually been out for quite a few years, and I've always thought it looked like a fun knit, but never had a specific reason to knit it, and now I want to knit it in her memory, and sort of as a way to channel my energy into something productive. And I decided, since I didn't have a sweater quantity in stash that I could do a colorwork yoked sweater with, that I would order something, but I also decided that I was going to try a new to me yarn company that I've been wanting to try. So I ordered Wisconsin Woolen Spun, which is, it is the fingering weight, and it is yarn designed by Susan B. Anderson's Barrett Company Wools. And so I ordered that yarn, and that should be arriving here later this week. I do not know when I will cast it on. That also could be a Nanny Swaymo sweater, since I feel like October is just gonna fly. I know it's only September 20th, but I already know I have enough to last me till the end of September. Plus I have a whole bunch of projects I need to do in October. So I'm already thinking ahead. So I have lots of fun things coming and projects that I want to make. And then I also have more projects from Stash that I need to do. So lots of knitting and crafting coming up. So I think that is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed seeing a little bit of what's on my needles and what's to come. I will obviously be sharing them more in the coming months. I hope next time to have several finished objects to share with you, and then we can start some new things so that I don't just keep showing you the same 3 or 4 things every single week. I feel like the last several weeks have been very kind of one note in all the same projects over and over and over again. So I'm hoping to accomplish quite a bit this week, and I hope you are well, and you are doing what you can do to keep yourself sort of above the water, and I hope that you have a wonderful week ahead. I will say, as I always do, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.